Shall I make a fancy background for them too? You could pick from whatever Zoom hasn't deleted for me. Here's one of my favorite annoying ones. So.
Well, for those of you who are watching the recording, here's the recording of the intro meeting for the B90 reading group this summer. We're going to get a little acquainted with each other. We're going to hear a word of encouragement from Father Brian Smith. He's the pastor of the Chapel of the Resurrection, which is located right by FSU campus. It's near the Sweet Shop. It's in a similar connected building to Rugay Hall, a building where a lot of campus ministries do things by campus. And so we're going to have a great reading group this summer, read through the whole Bible in 90 days with discussions and a video series, a lot of good fellowship. And I will now pass the floor over to Father Brian Smith, who will give us a word of encouragement and insight because he's done B90 before.
Yeah, so my getting involved with B90, and we should probably figure out how to stop that echo. I think we just did. So my getting involved with B90 was in maybe October before we did it last year. We had a retreat where my boss, we call him a bishop, said to every clergy person, you have to read the whole Bible next year, and just laid it out that way, which was great. And it's something that I've done a number of times before, but I've gotten into a much slower personal reading plan of the Bible at that point. So I wasn't going through the scriptures as much. And I'd say the thing that I found last year, the most helpful of all of the things, was connecting the dots, so to say, like noticing the lines that do give you a bigger picture, where the kind of image you might have of, or most of us have of the Bible, is maybe you're getting what you're reading in your daily devotions, you're getting what scriptures you're led to, you're getting the scriptures the pastors preach on a Sunday. But it's kind of like how Americans see the United States. We hop on a plane, we start in one place, we fly to another place, we see a little bit of it. And to have the line in between and the nuance and the ugliness and the beauty around that line is something that there's nothing like noticing it for yourself in context. So it's totally doable. Lots of people have done it. One of the people who coached me in how to do this had led churches through it at least 15 times. And me getting to support you, this is the second go round of it, though this summer I've just taken on an extra job that's not going to leave me the 8 hours a week that doing this well requires. So tips, I want you to complete it, that you're watching this or that you're here, you want to complete it. And being involved in a group, for those of you who aren't in this, is critical to completing it because it's accountability. Chances are high that at some point in the reading where you're going, it's really 88 hours, 90 days, so there are 2 grace days in there, that at some point in the reading, you'll fall behind a little. And when you fall behind, it's really helpful to go, oh, but at this point, I need to be caught up because I'm going to have a conversation with people who are going to help me see things I didn't see. So gathering in a group is really valuable, really important as one piece of accountability. That you're here, that you're watching it, that you joined the group me, that you got involved in any of this, like, I assume you want to do it maybe to have knowledge. Some of you may be doing it, and I think you'll succeed if you've said, God, I want to get this done with you, whether or not you're a believer in Jesus Christ. But if you've said, God, would you help me get this done? I would venture to say that you're more likely to complete it asking for help from the one who inspired everything in there, the one who communicated through all the authors of the Bible and managed to make the thing hold together and make some sense. But some watching this, you may not be a believer in Jesus or in the Bible's anything, and you're doing it more academically. And there it's simply this kind of commitment that you are in this for the ride. You're going to see what you see, you're going to learn what you learn. And I believe you're going to find that this book tells a cohesive story of a God who pursues relationship with everyone. Good, bad, ugly, all the way across the board. I believe you'll notice that, even if you don't believe it right now. So then in this mix, you've got read an hour a day, commit to the group, to really simple, basic stuff. Then there's some guides that have been recommended, and I've provided Stefan with extra resources that I bought. He's going to be posting them in the group me, that are simple overviews of what's this book of the Bible that I'm in now. So if you've picked up your average novel, I'm looking to see if I've got one at hand, but I think I only have Bibles and theological books and no novels. Maybe that novel has 20 characters. Maybe there are that many to learn. And the Bible has thousands of characters to learn and lists of names that are more than 20 long that you only see once or twice. And you have all these dynamics. So these overview sheets, or if you bought the visual, or I forget what it's called, but if you bought the guide to the Bible that's got 2 pages on each book, you were going to chime in.
I think it's called like the Essential Bible Companion, right?
Yeah. So if you've bought the Essential Bible Companion, you can get it pretty cheap, unless you all have bought it out from the Abe Books or Thrift Books or those kinds of things. You can get it fairly cheap because people use it and resell it. But that helps by giving you something to sort of hang on, that you get reminded that there's a skeleton, that those who bought it tend to have a more likely completion route. The other piece of more likely completion is having a reading Bible, as in I have a Bible here, like one of my favorite prep Bibles. It's nice, it's thick. Oh, and I've got this fancy blur filter on, so let me take that off. So it's nice, it's thick, it has a lot of commentary. But if I were reading the Bible in 90 days, I'd get lost in the commentary and it might take me 2 hours. So if you're reading a Bible like this, plan more time for yourself to read it. If you get a Bible that's just the words straight, you're reading in the range, depending on which version you have, of 12 pages a day. It's tempting to get bogged down in the commentary, to get bogged down in a beautiful way in the cross references that the scriptures have one to another. But your goal, that I'd urge you in these 90 days, is to read it, commit to reading every word of it. But you don't look for these broader patterns. Be ready for conversation, but you don't have to make every connection that you run down. If you want to do that, leave more than an hour a day to do the reading, so that you don't fall behind and get discouraged. I want you to succeed. I want you to get this done. I want you to be thrilled with getting it done. So those are those basic tips. There were a number of people last year who found that it helped to listen along to the Bible as they read it. And there are now a lot of apps, like half a dozen proliferated this year that I didn't have last year as options. But I've got a favorite Bible listening app called Dwell that you can get lots of different versions read to you with lots of different nationality, almost all English. They've added a couple Spanish voices. Reading along. If you listen, unless you do that double speed thing, it's going to take you longer than reading. Most people read faster than they listen. So, but listening for me in particular helped me slow down and notice more, because it slowed down in reading of the scriptures. So you're trying to read every word, or I'm giving you this option of listen. If you use the Dwell Bible app, I think you'll be pleased. You might find a voice that you don't like. I enjoyed talking with people who didn't like Felix, who's a good African voice, and he was my favorite, still is my favorite of their voices. But you can get a British voice, an Australian voice, an American voice on this Dwell app, but I digress. I'm going to bring us back. And right back to that start. You're reading the Bible, you do it in 90 days. Just keep reading, don't give up. If you fall behind, like you miss a day, just add in about a page a day, about and in the vicinity of 6 or 7 minutes a day, you'll catch up within the week. There are 2 grace days, but don't focus on the grace days. And especially if you get ahead, don't stop reading. Keep reading. That ought to be the charge. Like, you look at each other in every one of the weekly gatherings and just let's keep reading. Let's keep reading. Don't be busy about judging people for falling behind. Don't be proud about being ahead. Just keep reading and encouraging one another and sharing what you see. I'd say keep it about what you're noticing in the Bible. Keep it off those commentaries. Keep it as you dive in to seeing how God is pursuing his people, and then all people in this story that spans 66 books. So what questions do you have? Was that what you were hoping for, Stefan?
Yeah, it's pretty encouraging. It's pretty insightful. I don't know if I have any questions myself at the moment. I'll open the floor if anyone has any questions, though. All right, well, hey, all right. So, but I guess you really knocked it out of the park with that word of encouragement, then.
Yeah, well, and we're small, so it's if folks have questions, I'm in the group me. I try to watch it, and can try to communicate there. Again, for me, I just can't do justice to the hour a day at this juncture where I'm taking an extra 10-hour-a-week job on. But I'm hoping that I've got that one under control by August, and can come and teach the New Testament parts for you. In part because the video New Testament teacher is not very good, and the Old Testament teacher is pretty good, in the video series that comes along with the curriculum I've given everything to Stefan for. So
yeah, I think we'd be starting the New Testament around like July 25th or something, like, give or take. So yeah, great to have you then, if you're able,
So I have a question.
yes.
Hi, Brian. I'm Henry.
Hi, Henry.
So the schedule will be the one Stefan sent on the group me.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the schedule that gets you completed in 90 days. And notice that it has 2 grace days. Yeah.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Yeah, and like I said, Henry, if you want, that form, that the plan, like the sheet itself, on your computer, or you want to print it out or something, just go on the desktop version of group me on your laptop, or I could email it to you or whatever. So yeah, and besides the plan being available in the chat, and if anyone wants me to email it to them, besides that, like I said earlier in the chat today, I'm going to really try to do my reading in the morning, and then put a little, like, encouraging 1 or 2 sentence thing in the chat every day. Here's the chapters that you'll read today. Here's like a sneak peek of what it's about, like kind of a reminder for everyone, encouragement, keep people on track kind of easily.
And Stefan did just hit a point that I forgot to say. You're going to have a higher completion rate if you say, this is the time I'm going to do it every day. So maybe it's the first hour of your day, like you read it before breakfast, or maybe it's right after breakfast because you can't think when you're that hungry, or maybe it's right after work when you get home, you take time for it, or right after dinner again because you can't think when you're that hungry. I can't do just before bed because I fall asleep reading anything, no matter how excited I am about it. And early on, a lot of people who start the Bible, especially those who started in January trying to finish it by December, get bogged down in Leviticus and Numbers and start falling behind at that point. And don't do that. You don't need to do that. There's actually really exciting stuff about all that genealogical stuff that gets teased out in the teachings a little bit, because it's so much you're covering every week. There's not time to tease anything big out, except for what are you noticing? And your noticing with God is going to pay dividends.
Yeah, and I think, definitely important to eat. Yeah, before you read, probably get that nutrition for your brain and all that. Probably it might be helpful. I think some people maybe read and think better after they exercise too. get that like blood flowing. So there's some like pro tips, I guess.
But yeah, having a routine where you, within a couple of weeks, a few weeks, you're going to expect to sit down and read and be looking forward to it. It's these first couple of weeks as you start that are trickier.
But yeah, so does anyone else have any questions? Okay, well, if not, Brian, you close us out with a prayer if you'd like.
Sure. God, I thank you so much for each person here taking a venture to know the Bible better. Lord, I ask that you would show them how it is your word, and that you would show them the fullness of your blessing as they read and you communicate with them through these words that have communicated to so many people before. God, come to us day by day. Enliven the words with your Holy Spirit. And then help us to live with your word in our hearts. For your word says that it never returns to you empty. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So I will close out the meeting then. I'm so glad you all came out today. And for those of you who missed it and are watching the recording, I'm glad to have you involved as well. We will soon figure out a good time during the week to meet and discuss and watch a video series. And I'm really glad you're all involved in this. It's going to be such a great summer, such a great experience. We're all going to be so glad we did it all throughout and by the end of it. And thank you once again, Brian, for your encouraging words and for the prayer and everything. Thank you. Okay, I will close out the recording. So those who are watching the recording, goodbye.